Okay, so so let me switch to English and let's start. So it's 9:30 strict. I'm happy to open this third session of the ICT in Education track, the ICT conference. My name is Alexey Molchanovsky. I'm from the Ukrainian Catholic University, and I will be your chair for next three presentations. And the first paper, which will be presented by Ludmila Brin and her colleagues also online and co-authors. So the paper is titled "The Use of Digital Tools for Training and Retraining of Education Professionals in the Context of the COVID-19 Pandemic." Obviously, this is a hot topic, and this pandemic taught us a lot. So we, as educators, we need to optimize our processes, shift to new world, be ready to these new challenges. And it would be great to hear your presentation. So Ludmila, please, the mic is yours.
Good morning, dear friends, dear colleagues, and Mr. Chairman. So I want to present the results of our research. And we are the team of 4 people, representatives of scientific institution. Alena Otech is from the Institute of Higher Education of National Academy of Educational Sciences of Ukraine. Inna Tomas and Elena Ostryanska are representatives of the practical part of higher education institution. This is the University of Educational Management. And myself, I am an experienced specialist in non-formal education, and I'm a president of Children Mission NGO. The outline of this presentation will be, we will state the problem, show our research objectives and methods, our results, that would probably be the biggest part of the presentation, conclusions and recommendations after our research, and obviously future suggestions. So let's start. The digital transformation of social institutions and the challenges of information civilizations enhanced by COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the need for digital tools in all areas of public practice, including education. So pandemic forced accelerated introduction of distance and blended learning in educational processes of formal and non-formal educational institutions. And it also served as an indicator for the problems educators and educational providers have in mastering digital tools. This pandemic and rapid introduction of distant and online learning revealed the demand for educators and their digital competence formation and acquiring some special digital skills. So it also highlighted the need for relevant methodological and technical support for this educational process. So in order to completely manage these processes and provide qualified pedagogical and methodological assistance in mastering digital tools for training and retraining of educators of formal and, again, say, non-formal educational institutions, we saw the need to conduct a special educational research. And so we put these objectives for us. First one is to identify challenges, achievements, and attitudes of entities of higher and non-formal education to the use of digital tools for learning and professional development, and obviously develop guidelines for improving this process in higher educational institutions and non-formal educational institutions. We use the following research methods, and the bigger part was pedagogical observations, and we developed 3 questionnaires and surveys. So I will tell more later in detail about these questionnaires and data we acquired. And obviously we use statistical methods of information processing. To our research. So the research was done mainly in 2021, and empirical research was conducted by researchers from Scientific Institute of Higher Education of National Academy of Sciences, University of Educational Managers, and the educators of Children Mission NGO conducted 2 stages of that research in 2020 and 2021. With this aim to identify educators' level of ownership of use of digital tools for training and retraining at formal and informal educational institutions. In these 3 stages, we developed 3 Google Form questionnaires. You can read here their names, and I will tell later the details. Totally 458 respondents were involved on all 3 stages of our research. The questionnaires were designed of 3 parts: general information about the respondent, information on specific features of using digital tools, and information on the types and kinds of digital tools implemented in educational institutions. So the first stage of our empirical research was aimed at identifying the conditions for the organizing of distance learning and the attitude of educators to the use of digital tools in educational institutions during the coronavirus pandemic. This survey reached 259 respondents from 16 regions of Ukraine. So we saw that the educational process was not provided with sufficient resources, especially in rural areas, and appropriate conditions were not created for organizing educational process in a new format by educational institutions. So as you can see, only a little more than half of educational organizations, 56%, were able to provide quality internet access, but 44% of educators had to access internet from their home computers. But on the other hand, the transition to distance form of education, it became a test, obviously, for all subjects of educational process. And obviously, the COVID-19 condition changed significantly, changed the conditions for everybody, but it forced all forms of professional development into online format, and we see that only 5.6% received contact education in their professional development. Another question that was interesting for us was the possibility to see the difference for access to internet, or possibility for an educator living in a city or in a village for distance learning. And here our findings are that obviously for a city educator, it's much more accessible, because always city educators marked that 88.1% of them always had the possibility for distance learning, 11.5 not always, and only 3.5% it was impossible for them. But this red sign shows that educators from villages or rural areas had the majority of them not always had the possibility for distance learning, mostly because of low internet access. But the other interesting finding for us was that actually a bigger part of educators had quite an amount of time every day for individual learning. So we see that on question how much time was available for individual learning, 56.8% said 60 minutes per day, 45 minutes per day had 37.2%, and only 6% had 20 minutes per day. As marking that there was a motivation in educators' motivation for learning and professional development, and people could, educators could put their time in this every day. Distance learning format on one hand became an obstacle to its effectiveness due to unequal access to internet resources and digital tools. But on the other hand, it created more comfortable conditions for educator to work from home and save some time on the road to their place of work and back. Thus, the effectiveness effectiveness of distance or online education, in fact, depends on the educator's ability to self-organize their activities and educators' motivation to carry on even under adverse conditions. So that was the results of first stage of our research. So the second stage of our empirical research was aimed at identifying specific features for the use of digital tools for training and retraining of education professionals during this pandemic. So Survive reached 100 respondents from 15 regions of Ukraine. And these were mostly professors from higher educational institutions. So the results of the second stage showed that main digital tools used for training and advanced training of educators are mostly the same. What we mean by training, we mean tools used by educators for conducting their classes online. And the tools for advanced training is when the educators took some courses or self-learning online for their professional development. So as you can see, the main digital tools for that, they are more or less the same. Zoom is in both the main one with 98% for conducting classes and 92.6% for advanced learning, Skype, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, and the less commonly used are quite new or probably not very well, not very famous for our educators, tools like Canva, Quizlet, Kahoot, Xmind. We also asked what are the most popular social networks for educational purposes. The question was multi-answered. So as you can see, the most popular was Telegram, then Skype, Facebook, and Instagram. And the least one was TikTok with less than 1%. So thus the Second stage of our research showed that higher educational institutions, educators of higher educational institutions have average level of mastery digital tools, but they feel the need for methodological assistance for using digital tools in their educational activities. While at the same time, local higher educational institutions are not fully able to meet this need, though they are making an effort to provide it. The third questionnaire was aimed at identifying the most methodologically effective digital tools that, according to NGOs, educators should be used in conducting classes with children in the system of non-formal education. This research was done on comparison with the beginning of the quarantine introduced in Ukraine in March 2020, and a year later with the same group of 99 respondents from 15 regions of Ukraine. So as you see, the educational activities of non-formal education at NGOs included mainly such digital tools as video recording of lessons, various digital tasks and challenges, conducting meetings with children via Zoom, and keeping in touch with children and their parents via groups and social networks. We see the positive dynamics in use of such digital tools as conducting meetings via Zoom that grew almost twice during the year, and also in using social media for providing some educational events of non-formal education. At the same time, this research showed a significant increase in the level of mastering digital skills. For example, on the question, how would you assess your level of ownership of various digital tools compared to your own level at the beginning of quarantine, 55% of respondents rated it as high, 30% as average, and 15% as low. So what we saw is that educators of faith-based NGOs obviously experience some difficulties in using digital tools caused by insufficient level of formation of digital skills as an integral part of their pedagogical competence. They feel the urgent need for webinars, trainings, receiving some professional guidelines, and systematic advisory support. To sum up our results, we came to the following conclusions. So the COVID-19 pandemic has created the conditions for rapid development of digital tools for training and retraining of educational professionals. And so we see that the following measures are important, and that's formation and improvement of educators' digital competence in the system of both formal and non-formal education, upgrading and strengthening the content of educational programs, especially for retraining or advanced training of education professionals. Development of IT infrastructure of institutions, development and implementations of quality electronic digital learning tools like textbooks, video content, online tests, etc. Expanding the toolbox of digital technologies to form sustainable skills in solving problems of professional, educational, and also domestic or private nature. Also, as we saw that the main digital tools used in the process of professional and advanced learning training in the condition of COVID-19 were such platforms as Zoom, Skype, Google Classroom, and Microsoft Teams. These tools have been already widespread in the educational community and adult learning training even before the start of quarantine. But distance learners and educators, it was good that they had this prior knowledge, so that helped them to be or most of them to be successful and in this difficult period. Digital tools were used also by non-formal educators, and they were used for various educational purposes. So as means of non-formal education of children, also some organizations used it as means of training educators working with children in non-formal education, and of course as means of advanced training and organizational development. More than, again, we would like to underline that more than half, 55% of educators in non-formal education significantly improved their level during the pandemic. So one of the goals of our research was to identify gaps in the use of IT in the professional activity of educators and their professional development. The methods we used enable us to collect the above presented data on this issue. But the other part of our research was the practical significance of it was to provide recommendations for advanced training of educators in using digital tools for training and professional development. So we suggest the following resources for this. So web resources for teaching educational courses, web browsers, web-based distance learning environment at educational institutions, web-based resource management software, free cloud storage to access work materials and official documents of the institution in shared folders, school in the cloud, diary, full Microsoft Office, Dropboxes, etc. We also recommend online self-assessment tools like Internet Barometer of Skills of Cooperation with the use of cloud services and Mentep TEDSET tool. Here you can have a link. And we think that in all this process, it is important to consider digital competence system for educators and the digital competence system for citizens because it contains specific descriptors of 8 skill levels and description of the digital competence components. And we also recommend, so in our results of our survey, we recommend for local curriculum developers and those practitioners who plan to use digital tool in learning process to while they are doing the curricular development, that they must make use of those factors. Always remember that it's not yet full internet access for all adult learners, and they must remember the level of educators' competence and the level of educators' motivation. So these 3 factors must be addressed in the system of professional development of education professionals in Ukraine. And we see that further research can be aimed at a comparative analysis of European and local experience in the use of digital tools for especially professional development of educators, both for formal and non-formal education. Thank you, and we are open for your questions.
Thank you, Ludmila, for your interesting results and nice presentation. I really like it. So do we have any questions from the audience? Please raise your hand virtually to let us know that you want to ask the question. And probably while we're waiting for the questions from the colleagues, my main question, Ludmila, will be whether you try to compare your results with other region. I bet that there should be some similar researches, investigations of COVID-19 pandemic influence on education in European Union or in some particular countries, for instance, in our Eastern European region. And it would be really interesting to know in terms of all these statistics that you gathered, how we do feel ourselves, let me say in this way, in comparison to other countries. So have you been able to try some comparison?
Thank you for your question. I think at the moment we started our research, there were quite more generalized documents, more on normative and legislative side of it, available from European Union rather than wider data about educators. So that's why at the end we said that this is interesting for further research to compare this data. From the situation in non-formal education, I think our situation is quite more or less the same comparing with the reports of European Association for Adult Education. But as for higher educational institutions, at the time we did this research and were writing our article, there wasn't a lot of data available. So we would like to go on and really compare, as you said.
Okay, thank you. Also on the slide number 10, you mentioned that this kind of situation, it allows a higher level of comfort for the trainers. And I'm curious, how do you measure the comfortness?
One of the questions was about this, not really the comfortness as a psychological category, but if the subjective attitude, if people were how their attitude to this, and so people marked it, and I cannot tell you now the exact percentage, but it was quite high for educators. You can see there is an abstract about it in our paper.
Okay, thank you. And also, may you please switch to the slide number 11?
Let me come back. Oh, sorry.
Yes, and
number 11, this 11, one.
Yeah, this one. This is an interesting results, and I'm curious, what does it mean by Google here? So it's quite a high percentage of the usage, but
it's not Google, it's Google.
Google, it's okay.
Oh, it's a different thing. And
so what is that? I never heard about it.
It's also one of the digital tools.
Okay.
The program, which is more like a Kahoot of lessons.
Okay.
So I personally, as a representative of non-formal education, also haven't heard it. But my colleagues from University of Educational Management, so that was, and it turned out that quite not, but you can see that.
Yeah, that's the percentage.
15% of educators, they use it both sides.
Yeah, every 6th person. That's remarkable. I really need to check what is it.
Yes. Advertisement.
Yeah. That's an outcome for me, my personal outcome for you from your talk. Also, I'm not sure whether I can agree with your statement that the Skype is the social media. You mentioned on the next slide when you compare the social media platforms, and the Skype attracted quite high marks. Why do you treat Skype as a social media network?
Yeah, it was also a discussion in our team because I also thought that it's not a social media, but then on the perception of some educators, and people are still using Skype in this way to exchange messages and send some information or home assignments to people.
Yeah,
so they decided. So it was decided that we mark it as a social media thing, a digital tool.
So I must suggest that probably we need to make clarification for the future efforts here, because we can use Viber, and I know that Viber is really popular among at least K-12 teachers, and but we do not treat Viber as a social media platform. So probably it would be nice to investigate it more deeply. So thank you so much, Ludmila. It was nice to hear your presentation and have this short discussion. I wish you success while doing your PhD studies.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And let us switch, dear colleagues, to the next paper. It's titled "Chatbot as a Way of Approaching Individual Learning Trajectory of Physics to Foreign Students." And the presenter is Ms. Irina Bogomolova. Irina, are you with us?
Let me introduce our research using chatbot to approach individual learning trajectory in physics for foreign students. Physics is known to be a fundamental course playing a key role in CFRS training. It's possible to be applied to accomplish next task, to train professional problem solvation, to assist in establishment of logical connection between natural phenomena and professional situation, to contribute to formation of future CFRS professional competencies. The following documents are known to regulate physics learning. Table A, 2, 3, and 4 of International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification and Watchkeeping for CFRs, and STC V Code, Master and Chief Mate Model Course 7.01, Officer in Charge of Navigation Watch Model Course 7.03, Officer in Charge of Engineering Watch Model Course 7.04. However, the learning process is frequently being challenged with issues related to the problem. First of all, applicants for higher education are possessing poor level of physics preparation. Nowadays, high school students aren't paying enough attention and efforts to learn complex science subjects, especially physics. Hence, the average level of applicants' preparation is constantly decreasing. Applicants who have completed non-technical bachelor's degree for a few years ago enter into Kherson State Maritime Academy. These applicants no longer remember physics. Second, need to obtain knowledge in English. The majority of KSMA graduates are noticed to be working in international companies where English is spoken. Thus, knowing abbreviations, definitions, and units of measures is essential for them. Furthermore, seafarers are required to cope with reading and understanding professional literature in its original language, in English. Third, the work has been noticed to be constrained by COVID-19 pandemic. Pandemic limitation in social and educational spheres are surely to cause a great need for lockdowns, inclining educational environment to switch to distance learning and conduct classes online. As it has been stated earlier, English is being a language for professional communication for seafarers. So it seems reasonable to take SMA contingent into consideration. The majority of the cadets in Ukrainians, others are foreigners, and all of them are non-native English speakers. On the screen, you can see range of contingent of Kherson State Maritime Academy in percentage. This contingent are foreign students. Egypt, Lebanon, Nigeria, India, Ghana, Tunis, Syria, Palestine, Cote d'Ivoire, Azerbaijan, Moldova, Russia. Another as Bill C, seen for the majority of foreign students, English is not a native language. However, the physics course as a fundamental one demands all students to be familiar with definitions, laws, and their applications, especially in the professional environment. Hence, a great language barrier between students and teacher from one side and students and physics from another one. Similarly appears to be the first peculiarity of foreign students studying teacher. Another essential issue, difficulties in social and academical adaptations are to be kept in mind. Future seafarers' educational process is organized according to KSMA statute, which claims obligatory master course in the morning and after classes, strict schedule, of lessons, simulators, and watch as a necessity. However, such an agenda might seem to confront with national and religious educationals of foreign students. The issue mentioned are highly likely to be solved with international technologies usage, while mixed and distance learning process during lockdowns. The most well-known tools used for conducting classes are considered to be Zoom, Google Meet class, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, Skype, and Big Blue Button. Such platforms as Google Classroom, Moodle, iSpring, WebTutor, Teachbase turn out to be the most popular tools for placing educational content. However, all the platforms mentioned above seem to have been used rather as a way to convey already exist information, content, and pedagogical methodologies. For example, learning management system Moodle presents chat resource as a way of communication between students and teachers. Students should feel free to ask any questions related to the educational process, but it would be answered only when teacher is online. However, a neat and quick response to the courtesy questions made us to find another solutions. Thus, a discussion to create a messenger-based chatbot was made, and the survey on the most popular messenger was held. There are a wide range of teaching aspects where educational chatbots can be successfully applied. Administrative support to teachers. Chatbot takes of all administrative load of teachers if trained well and answers natively to questions like where, when, how, etc. Students and judgments. Students are meant to follow the deadlines or to participate in discussion. Teaching. Using the artificial intelligence bots are noticed to provide learners with answer guides, pieces of advice according to the context, imitating a real person dialogue. Feedback. Through the course, chatbots are being able to collect students' feedback as a result of various tests and able to correct the mistake with repetitive solving of typical problems. Anonymity. Students are to feel free to ask any questions without fear of the exposure. Fostering critical thought. Bots made on the artificial intelligent and machine learning basis are expected to act as a real tutor to look over evidence of students' critical thinking skills in his or her answers and to foster it with mistakes corrections. Universal teacher. Unlike a human, a bot could be an absolute expert in several fields and play an administrative role likewise. There is a strong presence of linguistics for language learning, business and economy focused ones rather than equal representation of both for different needs. Both for learning science courses are hardly possible to be found. Chatbot, your physics trainer, is created on the Telegram based using special constructors. Its fronted is a Telegram chat window between bot and students. All the beginning, the bot shows a starting message to students explaining the way it works and giving short instructions. When push the button, bot is queried for a material, navigating through its content. All bot's answers are uploaded beforehand by admins and organized in its structure as a tree. Students are proposed to navigate through chapters being provided with mini lessons consisting of images, text, GIFs, and videos, as well as being asked to solve problems and to type in answers. Go back. This button in Ukrainian. A go back button solves a problem of switching between parent and child nodes, making both interface and structure look user-friendly. Students can scroll through conversation history to review some essential concepts or other materials. To encourage students' learning, bot presents answer in a friendly tone. Different different emojis are used to emphasize chapters, topics, problems, and tests. This current bad view these emojis. Two groups of students have participated in the study. The study process of the first group, named Control, was held according to usual methodology. All classes were scheduled and students had access to the physics course resource on Moodle. The second group of participants, named Experimental, has been studied use the same methodology, except they were asked to interact with your physics trainer bot. After the study, participants of both groups were supposed to deal with the final test. The results prove that knowledge quality in the experimental group was higher than in the control. On switch in illustrated on the screen. Blue color is color of experimental control group. Green color is color of experimental group. As you can see, students of experimental group has no marks less than 60 points. After the study, students were faced to task to compare an educational process with and without the significant fraction of participants considered a chatbot and its notification before the class to be useful and motivating one. Besides, students stated the quick feedback from the tutor give
Anyone here, Irina?
No, I I cannot hear her.
Result of the surveys.
Now she is back.
You can check on the screen. You can see the most of the students agree with answer about bots messengers were helpful during the educational process. And to the end our report, I present you our conclusions and direction for future research. A key conclusion of our study to come up is that your physics trainer bot is sure to be contributing to noticeable improvement in knowledge quality. The chatbot is reasonable to be used as an essential component of the educational process for self and distance studying, and the creation of this chatbot is certainly to be evaluated as a reasonable one. Future study is required to create a chatbot with artificial intelligence technologies used. Thank you for attention. Maybe somebody have some question for me.
Okay. So Irene, thank you for your presentation, and I have a couple of questions. So first of all, you switched off the slides, but there is a question about this chart. Can you please bring back your presentation?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and can you please switch back to the slide number 9? Yes, this one. So what are the X and Y axis? So X is the points the students gain, right? This is their marks. Is it correct?
Yes, this mark is it correct? Students was graduate grades marks from 1 to 100 points according to European system.
Okay. And the y-axis is the number of students, right?
Yes.
Okay, I see it. And the second question probably is about this chatbot. So how do you provide information for the chatbot? Is it a manual job? So there is some operator who enters this scenario for the student. So how does the chatbot work?
Can I I ask your permission to answer on this question? My co-author is create a bot.
Please, welcome. Unfortunately, we cannot see you, but still we can hear you.
Oh, I will talk from this computer as I cannot switch my microphone on my telephone. So the chatbot, do you see me?
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't know. So the chatbot can send to the students messages, images, like usual text files, video files, audio, and basically any type of files you can send by the Telegram. The material is usually presented in the form of PDF, Word documents, and images, which are created beforehand, and they are uploaded to this bot, and then students can see it. Students can navigate through this bot using buttons, which are actually created using the chatbot constructor in Telegram. And
so the question, yeah, thank you for clarifying, but also question was probably how do you construct the exact class? So this trajectory of question and answering the student. Is it a manual job? There is some algorithm, or there is some, you know, so Irina mentioned this machine learning AI techniques. So what, how does chatbot work under the hood?
Oh, do you mean actual programming?
No, not programming, but I mean in terms of pedagogy, how the materials in what, so what is a procedure, what is the algorithm to provide, for instance, this topic or the next topic, or it is a linear model when every student gets the same assignments, or there are some, you know, branching when some student is better in some topics and then it's jump to the more mature, or some students is not that good in some topic, and then he or she need to retake the topic.
Basically, as its bot doesn't have any artificial intelligence or machine learning, as it's based on the constructor, the students can actually see only the buttons and the material, and only the teacher itself, while during the lectures, decides what the material should be seen and learned, and that stuff. I mean, basically, the lecturer is the main person who runs this bot, and then students only do actions with this bot by instructions of the lecturer.
And is this is it like in real time during the lecture, like we have a class?
It's completely possible to be used while lectures, while preparation for the exams, while tests, and if the lecture permits, it can be used while tests in the class, while official, you know, credits.
Okay, and I see on the image C that students can upload their solutions, and so how the teacher get this solution afterwards?
Here you can see the admin part of this bot, where we actually push the button named Task Kinematics Answers. When we get all the answers to this form, it may be a text. Some of the students send text solution to the problems. Some of them send images, and some can send, for example, a video. I don't know why, but it's possible. And teacher checks the solution, actually looking at the photo and deciding whether it's right or not. And then put marks in the electronic, how do we call it? Electronic grade mark paper, I don't know, on the Moodle.
Gradebook.
Yeah, gradebook, electronic gradebook.
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you so much. It was interesting to discuss. So do we have other questions from the audience? Let me check. Okay, probably not. So thank you, Irina, and your colleagues for presenting the paper. You can turn off your presentation. Yeah, and let us jump to our last but not the least paper titled Performance Efficiency of University Teachers in the Context of Generational Balance, Measurement Tools and Application Mechanisms. And the presenter is Anastasia. Anastasia, good morning.
Good morning to you. One
May
second.
you please start sharing your presentation?
Yeah. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen.
Good morning, dear participants of this conference. We are glad to see you. I hope that I see you next offline, not online. And today I will present the article Performance Efficiently of University Teachers in the Context of Generational Balance, Measurements, Tools, and Application Mechanism. The authors of which are Alexander Spivakovsky, Lyubov Petukhova, Sergei Omelchuk, Natalia Voropay, Anastasia Volenyuk, and Evgenia Revenko. The priority task of the development of the national higher education system in the modern information society include integration into the global scientific community, as well as the development of the innovation educational ecosystem. The systemic transformation of higher education is aimed at engineering a new quality, which in turn is impossible without the effective activities of university teachers and sound management decisions. And you can see the modern theory and practice of personnel management in higher education institutions should be based on the principle of result-based management and take into account and influence of cardinal changes in the age structure of scientific and pedagogical personnel due to such factor as. And you can see these factors. Next, in the framework of the analysis and determinations of priority directions for the building of the university human capacity, we consider it appropriate to use the development of the Strauss and Howe generational theory. And you can get acquainted with these researchers in the theoretical review of the literature in the first part of our research. Taking into account the rapid demographical changes of university collectives, the tendency to declining the number of young scientists and association general aging of scientific and pedagogical staff. As a study of the generational balance of scientific and pedagogical staff of university allow to develop effective personnel management plus and at the present stage and outlined prospects for the of institutions developments to further increase the general performance efficiently of teachers. The analysis of teachers' performance requires the use of appropriations tools that would take into account the peculiarities of the functions of universities. Modern information and communication system provides a wide range of such tools. Today, there are a large number of international bibliographic databases with traditionally the focus of scientists, the subjects of research, of which in the performance of university teachers. The most authoritative are Web of Science and Scopus databases, generally recognized by the world scientific community. The process of development digital services for monitoring the activities of university teachers and the level of individual countries is gaining wide popularity. A good example of such a service is the Norwegian Bibliometrical Database, current research information system in Norway, which includes all types of scientific publications in all fields of research in higher education. The article presents examples of Ukrainian and forward rating system in different universities. For automatic construction and consolidation rating of scientists departments, faculties according to indicators of process metric systems and online service publication. It was developed at Kherson State University, which has been operating since 2018. We highlight the following main characteristics of the local rating system of publication activity of university educational process participants of the basis of the online service publication. On this slide, you can see screenshots of the pages of this online system, online service publication of our university. The analysis of the sources allowed us to determine the following functions of the teacher rating. The presented systems and services differ in areas of application, methods, and analysis, and evaluation criteria, but currently there is no unified automated system in the world that would allow to comprehensive assessment of teachers' performance, taking into account age context. Due to the lack of the unified services monitoring the types of efficiently and university teachers' performance, there is need, on the one hand, to develop appropriations digital services, and on the other hand, further information, automation, and existing services to objective data. To solve the problem of assessing the quality of teachers' activity, we'll have measure of performance of teachers, which aims to improve the professional and pedagogical skills of teaching staff as their direct and indisputable prerequisite for the performance of higher education. We analyzed the ratio of age and researchers published activities of the top 20 best scientists of the university occupying different positions in consolidated ranking of higher education institutions of Ukraine. Each the ranking use different criteria for evaluation of university, so the consolidated rating of university allows us to consider the ranking indicator in various ways. In our study, the university's digital index indicates its place in the consolidated rating. We analyzed the ratio of different age categories among the top 20 scientists of each university. They were determined by the number of articles indexed by the cyanometric database Scopus and the ASH index. The analysis of the ratio of age and research and publishing activity of the top 20 best scientific and pedagogical workers of higher education institutions occupying different positions in the consolidating ranking on higher education institution of Ukraine allows you to identify certain trends. We conducted our study of the example of Kherson State University as a typical domestic higher education institution, which is evidences firstly by its 55th position of the academic ranking of higher education institution of Ukraine, top 200 Ukraine 2020, and 75th position in the consolidated ranking of the University of Ukraine in 2020 year. As can be seen from this screen slide, the teachers of generations X, aged 36 to 55, almost 50%, make up the majority of the scientific and pedagogical workers that provide the educational process at the university. The other 50% cover the generation and teachers baby boom and the generations of millennials, over 20%. Also in small part of the university scientists and pedagogical workers aged over 75 years. The general scheme of such distribution of scientists and pedagogical staff of the university is confirmed by the example of 9 faculties where the main part of the personnel potential is made up of teachers aged 36 to 55 years. For example, the percentages of the scientific and pedagogical workers of Generation X and the faculties ranges from the highest and at the Faculty of Business and Law to the lowest and the Faculty of Ukrainian and Foreign Philology and Journalism. Summarizing the statistical data of this table, we note the larger generational gap between the millennials and Generation X. is observed of the Faculty of Physical Education and Sports and the Faculty of Business and Law, which is more than 40%. The smallest gap between this generation in the Faculty of Ukrainian and Foreign Philology and Journalism and the Faculty of Education. The average rate of such a gap at the university is 27 in favor of scientific and pedagogical workers of Generation X. This trend also has partial deviation. In particular, the experience of scientific and pedagogical work does not always guarantee a high rating indicator of the teacher. This is evidenced by the result of individual quantitative indicator of achievement and scientific and pedagogical staff of Kherson State University for 2017-2019 years. The analysis of the generational balance of universities teachers taking into account of efficiently of their performance made it possible to identify the strengths and opportunities of the generational balance of teachers, as well as weakness and threats of the imbalance between age group and their performance. SWOT analysis was conducted on the basis of qualitative characteristics of the generational balance of teachers in higher education institutions. As noted in many studies and confirmed by statistics, there is a tendency to decline in the number of young scientists in Ukraine, and as a result, the field of education and science suffers significant staff losses. Thus, we investigated the quantitative indicators of Ukrainian university that occupy different places in the consolidated ranking, based of the national ranking of educational institution of Ukraine, top 200 Ukraine Scopus, and external evolutional score for a contract. The numerical index of the university in the table indicates its place in the consolidated ranking. According to the result of the study, the number of young scientists in all universities and accordingly their percentage is decreasing. The tendency to declining the number of young people and in science and their associated general aging of teachers is a real threat to the prospect of future science. And according to the analysis of the university teachers' performance efficiently in different areas in the context of generational balance, we use the information and analytical system, including automated, we can draw the following conclusions. You can see these conclusions of the slide. And we know that the problem we have studied needs further research. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anastasia, for your presentation. So please don't turn off your presentation. There are some questions regarding the slides, so please bring it back. Yes. So, dear colleagues, anyone, do you have any questions to Anastasia? Please don't be shy. Anastasia, can you switch back to this SWOT analysis slide?
Yes.
May you please tell us a bit more how the SWOT analysis was conducted? So there is some questionnaire, there was some working group, some commission. So why exactly these statements we see in this SWOT analysis?
This SWOT analysis, thank you for your questions, was conducted on the basis of qualitative characteristics of the generational balance of teachers in higher education institution. It not was experimental group, it was qualitative characteristics. We speak about them with different categories of teachers in higher education, and as a result, we can make some conclusions, and we make this SWOT analysis.
So you conducted some interviews with the teachers and professors?
Yes, we have some interviews and some speaking with different categories, age categories, different in our higher education.
It's in your university in Kherson State, right?
Yes, because we say in our research that Kherson State University is typical university because we have some places in different ranking, and we make these conclusions after research in our universities.
Okay, I see. And so you you obviously asked your interviewers from different fields, from different faculties. Is it correct?
Yes, different faculties, different departments of university, but that is teachers of higher education, but different categories and different departments.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question from Ludmila. So Ludmila, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So Anastasia, you mentioned that there are some faculties where the generational gap is more seen, more notable. How does it affect the efficiency of the faculty?
Yes. In our conclusion, one second. Imbalance between different age group indicated high risk and different problems, and we can have conclusions that minimal gap of these aging categories is a factor of hiding its results, effective results.
So is it your more empirical research rather than you have some data or questionnaires on this?
Yes.
Or is it just theoretically, like obvious from what you
studied? You can see average rating score of scientific and pedagogical workers of Kherson State University by generational, and it in different faculties. We know the persons and its results. Effective results of publications, of activity, of different ranking of its.
But, excuse me, I interrupt you. So we in this slide we see the ratio of different age groups between this for different faculties. But you said about the pedagogical and the research activities. So the previous slide was, I see this some measurement, but here is just a ratio between different age groups. Yeah, it's an interesting question that Ludmila raised. Obviously, it would be nice to see some kind of mapping between this. For instance, this slide is interesting because we see, for instance, that you mentioned for business and law, there are higher number of average age lecturers, like almost 2/3 of them, 60%. And for instance, for computer science, physics, and mathematics, it drops, and there are more senior teachers. and it would be interesting to compare with their productivity. And one of the kind of measurement could be the effectiveness and the skills, knowledge and skills of the students.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Alex.
Yeah. So can we, for instance, take some results of the, I don't know, some
correlate, correlate.
So their marks, and then try to make whether there is any correlation between them. So I think that it would be interesting to conduct this research in the future.
Yes, I understand you, but our researchers needs further research, and this interesting problem. No research early, and I mean that we have more field to scientific research in future.
Okay, thank you so much, Ludmila, for your question. Seems we do not have any other questions. So, Anastasia, thank you for your presentation once again. Dear colleagues, that was the last presentation at our session. It was nice to hear your presentations and have these discussions. I hope that they were valuable for you, and hope that you will continue your research, and probably next time, and we hope that it will be on site and we can share some coffee or tea. It will be great to see you in person. Thank you. It was my pleasure to chair this session, and have a nice day.